Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and I haven't thought of anything cool to say at the beginning of these videos yet. I don't have a catchphrase, but I'm working on it. But today, we're going to go over some book lots that I bought off of Vinted. And Vinted is sort of like the Goodwill store, but on the internet. Also, this video is not sponsored by Vinted, just so we're clear. So yeah, Vinted is like Goodwill. People put their used stuff on there, you buy it, it's yours. A lot of stuff on there is really cheap. It's really good for clothes. After about a week of shopping on there, I found out they had books and video games. We'll definitely be having a different video based on those video games at a later date. But for today, we're going to talk about books. So I got 7 different lots, and they are all classic science fiction and fantasy paperbacks, mass market paperbacks, which I've been buying more lately because I believe that mass market paperbacks are basically going to go extinct as publishers are no longer making them.
Are you all right, Colonel?
Yeah, I'm fine. Except, it's a terrible day for rain.
What do you mean? It's not raining.
Yes, it is.
Oh, so it is. Why don't we head back? It's getting chilly out here.
I do like trade paperbacks, but there's something about the small mass markets that are just great to read. So, let's get into these book lots and see what I got from Vinted. Probably should have opened these before we began. You know, I was surprised by the amount of games and books that are on Vinted, and a lot of really good deals. Now, don't get me wrong, there is scams. So if you're on there and they don't have the buy now option, and underneath the item it's like, message me, my grandpa died and I'm trying to sell this for cheap, it's a scam. But I would say 90% of the listings on Vinted are legit. I've had no issues with any of the books or games that I've bought so far. Now, this first lot is a trilogy from the fantasy writer Mercedes Lackey, who I have actually never read. Now, this is the Heralds of Valdemar trilogy, with book 1 being Arrows of the Queen. See if I can get it in the camera there. Book 2 being Arrow's Flight, and book 3 being Arrow's Fall. Now, the reason I bought these is, one, it was like $7, but just look at these covers. You just do not see fantasy covers like this anymore. See if I can find out who did the art. Cover art by Jody Lee. Now, before this video, I looked up Mercedes' wiki page, and she has just written a ton of fantasy and science fiction, and I am very excited to get into these books. I believe her first published book was in 1985, and she's still writing, as far as I know, to this day. If you've read any Mercedes Lackey books, let me know what I've got to look forward to, and if you enjoyed them. So I got 2 packages here for the second lot, just packaged really well. Some of these books have been well read, but again, this is like Goodwill, you know? You're not getting a pristine copy, and I paid like $6 a lot, so. So the first 2 in this lot are books by Kenneth C. Flint. The first one being Crom, a Novel of Darkness, and the second, a Isle of Destiny. And as much as I know about Kenneth is I believe he's an English writer who wrote Celtic fantasy, a rousing tale of myth and magic. And that's just something that I'm very interested in. Cover art by Chris Hopkins. You know, both of these publication dates are early 90s, which is just the sweet spot of fantasy for me. I've never read a Kenneth C. Flint book, but according to the internet, he is a deeply loved author. The second in this lot is 2 books by Brian Daly. The first one is the Doomfares of Coromandel, I think I'm saying that right, and the Star Followers of Coromandel. I believe these are 1970s fantasy, and the name Brian Daly to me sounds familiar. I believe, and I could be wrong here, that he wrote some Star Wars fiction. Cover art by Daryl K. Sweet, which is a pretty famous cover artist. Look at that cover. I believe this too is Celtic fantasy, and I am very excited to get into this. You know, when I started this channel, I thought, you know, my first video would be on my favorite fantasy books of all time, like what got me into fantasy, and I still plan on doing those videos. You know, not including Lord of the Rings, the books that got me into fantasy was Shannara, or Shannara. I'm never going to call it Shannara. I don't care if that's how it's pronounced. I call it Shannara, so get used to it. But Terry was my favorite author until I was in my 20s, probably. What fantasy series got you into fantasy? Let me know down below. So this next lot is 7 books. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
6, 7!
All, again, by Kenneth C. Flint. So I'm going to have a lot of Kenneth to read here pretty soon. The first one is The Dark Druid, followed by The Champions of Sidhe. Sidhe? Sounds Irish. Challenge of the Clans, and look at that incredible cover there. Master of the Sidhe. The Riders of the Sidhe. I am recognizing a pattern here. Storm Shield, and A Storm Upon Ulster. Like I said before, I believe he writes a lot of Irish, Celtic-inspired fantasy. Yeah, see, imbues fresh life in the Celts of ancient Ire for a new generation from the Los Angeles Times. So, I mean, that just sounds great. I just have not been reading enough older fantasy lately. I've been liking the new stuff that I've been reading. I've been reading a lot of, like, progression, lit RPG type stuff lately, which is fun. It's not the deepest stuff in the world, but it is fun. But I want to get back into this classic stuff. That is 3 lots down and 4 more to go. I think a majority of these lots, I think 4 out of the 7, were bought from a very nice Canadian lady. Her name on there is like School Teacher ABC or something. But she just has a lot of gems. Now this might be my favorite lot. This is a David Gemmell lot. And there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7
6, 7!
David Gemmell books. David is a blind spot in my fantasy list. I've read none of his books, and I've heard nothing but great things about David Gemmell. So to start, we have Hero in the Shadows, Ravenheart, which I believe is one of his more famous novels, Storm Rider, Last Sword of Power, White Wolf, Ghost King, and Knights of Dark Renown. Now, I know this isn't even probably a fraction of what David has written, but I wanted to just kind of get started on the David Gemmell train, if you know what I mean. Yeah, I looked it up. David's written 33 fantasy novels, which, that's a lot. But, you know, a couple years ago, I read through every Malazan book, and I think that's pushing 30 if you read both Steven Erikson and Ian C. Esselmont. So 33 is not crazy, and none of these books are terribly long. Have you read David Gemmell? And if you have, you know, tell me your thoughts. Is he one of the greats of fantasy like I've heard? Or is he a little overrated? Let me know. You know, I was at Barnes & Noble the other day, and I understand that, like, Romantasy has made Barnes & Noble great again, right? And not only have they been saved from bankruptcy, but they're expanding. There's a Starbucks in every one, and they're, like, very popular again, which I like, because I like that there's physical books that you can go buy in a store, not online, right? Like I'm doing here. Obviously, these are older books that you have to do that with, but I was just kind of disappointed at the fantasy section. It was like Tolkien and Brandon Sanderson, and then like another shelf of maybe like 5 or 6 authors, and then it was just all Romantasy. I don't want to sound like a boomer, but like, can we get a little better selection? Oh look, they sent me a little bracelet here. That's nice. Put that on. So this next lot is 6 books from the author Kristen Brittain, not sure on that, I have to look it up. But these are some thick, chonky books, which is not bad. The first one is Firebrand, copyright 2017, so these are some newer books, which is interesting. We have Mirror Sight, Black Veil, which I've heard about this one. I believe this is from a series called Green Rider. The High King's Tomb. This must be the first book in the series, just titled Green Rider. First published in 2014, so this is probably the newest of the fantasy so far. I think probably the newest in the lot. And finally, the sequel to the first book, The First Rider's Call. Cover art by Keith Parkinson. So it looks like I'm just missing Winter Light and Falling in a Sea of Stars, which was published last year. And again, this is more Celtic fantasy, so I'm sort of seeing a pattern here with these books. I didn't mean to buy all Celtic fantasy, but, you know, I'm not going to complain. Where do you guys buy your old book lots from? Do you still go on eBay, Amazon? You know, Amazon's just they have a lot of choices, but I haven't, you know, some of the books I've received used-wise have been in worse condition than these, actually. So I usually just stick to eBay and obviously just trying Vinted for the first time. So again, we have some more, I believe, Celtic-inspired fantasy here. We have a 4-book series by the author Neil Hancock. And what's funny about these books is on each one, it says, beginning a great new saga for all those who love Lord of the Rings. And again, look at that little dude on there. Welcome to the enchanted twilight world of Allenton Earth. You are invited to enter a universe unto itself, a vast realm of a forest and river, mountain and cave, town and castle. Yeah, each of these books talks about Lord of the Rings on the cover a little bit, and I think that's part of that like 70s, 60s boom where like if you weren't writing Lord of the Rings style fantasy, you just weren't getting published. I don't hate it. I don't hate the tropes at all. If I'm reading a book that's similar to the Lord of the Rings, I'm happy because the Lord of the Rings is fantastic. Yeah, the first book is Circle of Light, Greyfax Grimwald. The second one is Circle of Light, Tharagon Faraway. We have Circle of Light 3, Calyx Stay, with a very cute looking bear who's obviously being, you know, taken to jail or something there. I don't know what's going on there. And Circle of Light 4, Squaring the Circle. And I believe this is probably the oldest of the books. So we can find a published date here. Copyright 1977. So that's around the same time as some of the other ones. You can see the yellowing here of the pages. I don't know. Neil Hancock sounds interesting. And again, this, I don't know if this is Celtic-inspired fantasy, but it is definitely Lord of the Rings inspired. So yeah, that'll do it for today. You know, out of all of those authors that I received, who should I start with? I'm thinking maybe David Gemmell, but that's sort of a bigger amount of books to read, so maybe I start with someone with less books to read. If you've read any of these authors, let me know in the comments below. Let me know your thoughts on the authors, on those specific books. And just tell me what classic fantasy you love and what classic fantasy I should read. Because, like I said, I'm trying to read more books about dwarves and elves and dragons, you know, mass market paperbacks with yellowing pages and books that are based on The Hobbit. I want to read all of that. I recently read, you know, Dragonlance. I got into Dragonlance for the first time. I read the first trilogy. Couldn't put it down. Just absolutely loved it. Cannot wait to read more Dragonlance. But I want to read more books like that. So tell me down below, what classic fantasy should I read? Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. Think about subscribing. This is a brand new channel. And, you know, I don't know how many people are going to see this, but I'm excited to do more videos like this. You know, a lot of these videos are going to be about books, but we're also going to talk about video games. We might even play some video games. Basically anything that I'm into at the time, you know, we're going to talk about. I do have another channel. It's a little bigger. It's called Pax Romana. That's a channel that's about Roman history. So if you're into that, you know, go ahead and subscribe. And yeah, I think that's all for today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Didn't think it would end this way.
End? No, the journey doesn't end here. Death is just another path. One that we all must take.